A silver moon cuts across the calm surface of an ancient Italian lake, and for one brief second, something impossible flickers beneath the water. A curve of carved marble, the glint of bronze, the suggestion of a massive hull frozen in time. Imagine a ship so extravagant that writers called it a floating palace built, not for war or travel, but for spectacle, indulgence, and the ego of an emperor who believed the world itself was his stage. And imagine that ship, along with stories of entire Roman coastal cities swallowed by the sea, lying hidden beneath layers of mud, silence, and forgotten history. For centuries, people dismissed these tales as exaggerations, as gossip written by scandal-loving historians. But what if they weren't exaggerations at all? What if the rumors of Caligula's treasure ships and the underwater cities of ancient Rome were clues pointing toward one of the greatest submerged archaeological mysteries in history? Tonight, we dive into the world of imperial extravagance, forgotten engineering, sunken palaces, and discoveries the ocean tried to keep secret. Gaius, Julius Caesar, Augustus Germanicus better, known as Caligula, enters history like a storm. Ancient writers describe him as unpredictable, theatrical, excessive, a man who ruled Rome less like an emperor and more like a performer staging a never-ending spectacle. Some of their stories are no doubt exaggerated, twisted by political enemies and moralizing historians. But beneath the drama lies a consistent truth. Caligula loved grandeur, he loved attention, and he loved building things that proved his power was beyond ordinary mortals. That is, the origin of the legendary pleasure ships at Lake Nemi. These vessels were not ordinary ships. They were floating mansions made of the finest materials Rome could produce. Massive wooden hulls decorated with marble, bronze, and precious woods, featuring heating systems, plumbing, ornate floors, and ceremonial rooms that resembled temples more than ships. For centuries, people thought these descriptions were too ridiculous to be real. But then, evidence began to surface. In the early 20th century, an extraordinary engineering project lowered the water level of Lake Nemi. As the water retreated, massive wooden structures, larger than many modern ships, began to appear. Archaeologists, engineers, and soldiers worked tirelessly to recover these remains. What they found stunned the world. The hulls were enormous, reinforced with metal. The fittings were crafted with precision. And the decorations confirmed that these were indeed the floating palaces described by ancient writers. The discoveries proved that the legends were not just moral stories, they were real engineering marvels created during Caligula's rule. But history is not always kind. Although the ships were raised from the depths and displayed in a museum, war would eventually claim much of what had been saved. Fires, conflict, and human negligence destroyed large portions of the recovered artifacts. Thankfully, drawings, photographs, and surviving bronze parts remain haunting reminders of a world that once existed. Beyond the lake, the coastline of Italy hides secrets just as astonishing. Along the Bay of Naples lie submerged Roman townsvillas' bathhouses, temples, and streets now frozen beneath the waves. One of the most extraordinary is Baiae, the luxury resort of the Roman elite, where senators, generals, and emperors relaxed in sprawling seaside palaces. Over centuries, volcanic activity caused the land to sink, slowly pulling entire neighborhoods under the water. Today, divers navigate mosaic floors, collapsed columns, and sculptures resting quietly on the seabed. Modern marine technologist sonar, underwater drones, 3D mapping reveals outlines of buildings and artifacts with incredible clarity. These underwater cities show us not only the grandeur of Rome, but the ordinary pulse of daily life. Wine amphorae stacked in storerooms, merchant tools, kitchen utensils, and sometimes coins clustered together hidden intentionally during moments of panic, never retrieved. These discoveries raise fascinating questions about what ancient people valued, what they feared, and what they tried to save when disaster struck. What the ocean preserves, it preserves in fragments. And those fragments challenge our understanding of the past. They remind us that history is not a clean timeline, but a puzzle of surviving pieces. An emperor could command marble, gold, and armies, but he could not command nature. Seas rise, cities sink, and even the grandest monuments fade. Yet the ocean gives back just enough to keep the story alive. A bronze clasp half buried in silt, a mosaic depicting forgotten myths. A ceremonial fitting from a ship designed to impress the gods. Each piece reveals something new, something human. These discoveries force us to think how much of what we believe about ancient rulers comes from biased writers. How much lies hidden underwater, untouched and untold. And if we could walk through those submerged streets or stand aboard Caligula's floating palace just once, would we see him as the monster described in history books, or as a flawed theatrical ruler trying to carve immortality into the world? In the end, the sea keeps its secrets until it decides to release them. And when it does, what we find beneath the waves can rewrite what we thought we knew. The treasures of Caligula, the drowned cities of Rome, the artifacts waiting in silence, they all remind us that the past is deeper, stranger, and more alive than we imagine. And sometimes, the most astonishing discoveries are the questions that rise to the surface, refusing to stay buried.